Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Praise Podcast. My name is Eric Lade. Of course, each and every time I get the pleasure of hosting this podcast, of course, no, we never do it alone. Joined by the one, the only, the greatest co-host above all other co-hosts, the Brooke Paninsky.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. The people are talking, and that is what they say. And so we are just super excited to be with you for another episode of the Praise Podcast. Of course, we will be diving into a conversation here in just a little bit, all about God's faithfulness and ways that you can recount that faithfulness, ways that you can keep that on the front of your mind, even in times when that may feel like the last thing you want to think about, or maybe even is on your mind. So we're going to have that conversation here in just a few minutes, so stick around for that. But before we get to all that kind of fun, we want to make sure that you know how to stay connected with this podcast. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Boy, have you just stumbled across a game-changing podcast for you. I mean, this is really going to turn things around for them, isn't it, Brooke?
I don't think anyone has said that.
Their day is their day. They're weeks ahead.
We might think it.
I mean, this is going to just, you're in for a treat. And so,
that's really funny.
We're glad that you have joined us. But if you're new or maybe you've been with us a long time, still, we always want to remind you, one, you can join us on Instagram at The Praise Podcast, so you can join on there. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Guys, I follow you on Instagram, and it ain't that much fun.
You would be correct.
But, big news. We're working on developing some
plan.
Content. Yeah. Here's what we've learned.
Some might even call it accountability.
Yeah.
Or just,
or just getting our act together.
I don't know. But it is so hard because I guess I'll speak for myself, but I know you would agree. But we're just not social media people in general. Even on our own personal things or whatever. Yeah. And so to have to do it, it's just not natural for me. No. So, and then anyways, but with everything else you have going on, you just forget. But that is on the docket
we're
of conversation.
Working. Here's what we're doing.
It is going to be much better than what it is.
We're in the compiling phase right now.
Well, and you guys deserve better than our previous efforts.
Yeah. So although that was about as good as I have to offer, but I mean that was maximum effort on my part. But anyways, head over to Instagram, follow us at The Praise Podcast. Of course, you can, we've got a website, thepraisepodcast.com. On that website, we've got resources. We've got ways that you can get connected. You can join the conversation. You guys have been doing that, which is super fun to have those conversations with you all and to just be able to talk through what you guys are thinking through on each conversation that we have. So you can do that. Again, there's books, there's just all kinds of study things, other podcasts we recommend you listen to. So thepraisepodcast.com is a great place to check out. And then, of course, you can always email us at eric@thepraisepodcast.com or brooke@thepraisepodcast.com if you ever have questions, thoughts, just want to tune in a different way, join in the conversation that way, you can do that. If you are somebody joining us on YouTube, so Season 4, we launched on YouTube for the first time, and it's been so much fun to be actually, we can't see you, but I guess you can see us, and it's been fun to go back and watch all the time. Yeah. Brooke rolls her eyes at me or gives me the face of I can't
Eric
believe
wears
you
the
just
same clothes.
Yeah, or
really
when I wear
watch.
the same clothes, and so you get to see our smiling faces now, but. If you're a listener of this podcast and you didn't know we were on YouTube, we are now on YouTube. You can just search The Praise Podcast. And if you are on YouTube, we would love for you to like and subscribe the page. That helps the podcast get seen and heard by more people, and we just appreciate that. And it'll keep you up to date on any time we release new stuff. You get notified, and you don't have to wonder when are they going to put out another episode. So that's kind of all the housekeeping items. Brooke,
Yeah.
It is turning spring in our area. We are shifting. So a couple episodes we talked about winter and really specifically my disdain for winter, although Brooke is not a huge winter fan either. Great
and
episode.
Spring's my
you should go back
least
and
favorite.
Yeah. And so we're moving into, but it's
So
a
it's
step
getting
above
better.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like
It's
we're
getting
climbing
better.
the ladder.
But like right now, it's just rain.
Yeah, but
Allergies,
storms,
and that's always so yucky. Like
Yes.
storms I'm not a fan.
but they're. I mean, I don't like the destruction. I mean, of course, I don't
You're a
like
storm
destruction, and I don't like people to be harmed or hurt or killed. Obviously,
But you're like oddly interested in like the actual weather part of it.
it is. It's I'm a nerd when it
Yeah,
comes to that. Like
you
it
are.
is just super.
But I guess it's okay.
It's just very interesting. All that goes like there's just so much that goes into it.
So we had a really bad storm a couple weeks ago where we're from, and we have this group text, and all of us, other than Eric, were like, Eric, what's happening out there? And it's like 11 o'clock at night. And so we're like, are we good to go? Oh, there's the siren. Like, do we need to take cover yet? Do we, like, what's the news guy saying? And he was just like our own personal, like, meteorologist.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
it was fun.
So we benefit from when you nerd out about storms.
Yeah, it was really funny because I had I bet 10 different people texting me that night just because they know, and they were like, hey, my wife's freaking out, or hey, my kid, like what's the deal? What's happening? And I was like, well, you've come to the right place. Sit down. I'll give you the update. Where are you at? Okay, yeah, you're okay. Or there was a couple people, I mean, like legit. I mean, we had tornadoes in our area.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a night. So, anyways,
more of those to come apparently.
More
spring.
of those, yeah.
But
all right, so
song spotlight.
Sweet. I'm first, aren't I?
Go for it.
All right, so we've been talking about this album constantly. You guys are probably
tired of hearing about it.
Tired of hearing about it. You're annoyed by it,
can't help it.
or you have actually listened to us and you've listened to the album, and then you know that it's just that good. But today we didn't really plan it, but it's going to be kind of it's a Easter at Central preview, really,
peek.
Because both of our songs, you will, if you go and listen to them, you will hear these songs at Easter at Central. And so, so it's a little sneak peek for you. But my song is, of course, off of the Eden album. So probably for the last, 4 weeks, we've been talking about this album. But it is the song Roll On. And hold on, let me just pull this up here real quick.
That's just so good.
I'm playing it.
It.
There it is. Boom. That'll
so just let that play.
Yeah, this
Will that catch us on YouTube?
Yeah, that'll probably get us flagged for all kinds of stuff already. They've been lating, but it's Chantrice Laura, Natalie Grant, Belonging Co. crew, and man, it is just like it's soulful gospel to its core.
It's like the Pentecost. It's just powerful.
Yeah, they both like.
Holy.
Chantrice opens her mouth, and you're just like
the heavens open.
The heavens open. The Holy Spirit just rests, and you just kind of like.
It's fun too.
Yeah, you just want to just sit, and you're just like, it's just so good.
Shia is leading that song, and so in a group chat we have with the team for Easter, we're divvying out assignments and just going over details and all the back end stuff that takes place in that and Shia like listened to it and she was like, somebody's gonna have to hold me back and rein me in or something. And I was like, no, that's not allowed.
Yeah,
we're like,
let it
get
fly.
after it. It's gonna be so amazing. So that's a good song.
Yeah.
But that was my favorite, one of my favorites. I left the live recording like thinking like, that song's my favorite one on the whole album.
But like it's so like the verse is there's a throne found up above, and out of it flows a heavenly flood, shining like crystal, brilliant and bright, the water of life. There is a man who hung on a cross, beaten and bruised, broken for us. Healing and mercy flow from his side, the water of life. And then I love the bridge. Because then the bridge kind of shifts gears a little bit, and then it goes, and the sick made well, the bound go free, the dead rise up, the blind eyes see. Everywhere it flows, there's life.
I just love that.
Yeah. Addiction breaks, depression leaves, your kingdom comes, the people sing. Everywhere. Yeah, it's just
We're going to have to listen to it right after this.
Whew.
Just get out of my system.
Yeah, it's just, It's
It
just good. And
fires me up.
I love
It's so
bridges
good.
I like bridges that make you declare those things. Like that, because I think like we can think them, but there's something about like singing those words and then like singing
Just really
in a powerful
coming into
way.
agreement with
it's
it.
like because
Yeah.
like this is like these aren't things we're hoping for. Like we know these things to be true, and so then it's just like you're just laying it out there,
Yeah.
And anyways, roll on, Belonging Co. Just be careful wherever you listen to it and whenever you listen to it, something might break out. So
That's right.
you might take off running.
Those are the best.
People might be falling out around you. Just be prepared. So, yeah, Brooke.
Well, mine, so that's how we're opening Easter service with Roll On. Whew. And we're closing Easter service with the song that I'm going to share today by Elevation Worship. And it is I Know a Name. And I think, like what you said about that like the bridge part, like there's just something so powerful when you listen to songs like that and then you sing songs like that and you're speaking these things out loud. And it's like you're giving just almost like, I don't know, it's just like a confidence booster. Like you're reminding yourself of who God is and like what he can do. And then there are several people who can sing, these things. And it's reminding them of a real encounter that they had or a testimony from someone else that they know. And it just grows your faith again. It's a good way to just reposture yourself for I don't know, like the front lines that we're in all the time as Christians, just to have to remind yourself of who God is. And when you just grasp that and you refocus on that, it just there's something that happens in our spirit that just makes us a little more bold or a little more confident or I don't know, you just the almost like these footholds that the enemy will have on us when we lose sight of that, or if it's not on the forefront of our mind about God's character, we just kind of can fall into temptation and to schemes of the enemy when we're not thinking about those things or really truly believing and declaring those things, and we partner with things that aren't of God, and that's what gets us into bad seasons or yucky situations or like fleshly things. And so, I don't know. I'm all about songs like that do that. It just builds my confidence and it's so celebratory and so powerful and passionate. I just love that. So I Know a Name. It's Elevation Worship. Of course, Brandon Lake, Chris Brown, all things. Oh, yeah, it's just, oh my gosh. Okay, so I know a name that can silence the roaring waves. So what can he do, right? I know a name that can empty out a grave. I know a name. It's the only name that saves, and it's worthy of all praise. I call you Jesus. I call you healer, risen and reigning in power. Something comes out of the grave every time I call your name. It goes on to say in the next verse, I have a king with dominion over death. He holds the keys in his holy nail-scarred hands. He is the heel. Yeah. Well, you don't have to read. Yeah. That has crushed that serpent's head, are resurrected. Great I am. And I call you Jesus. Again, it's just you're singing these lyrics, and you can't sing these lyrics without like thinking these things about God and reminding yourself. If you're someone who believes that he is those things, then like, I don't know, it shifts. There's a shift that happens in our spirit. And if you're someone who, you're at church for the first time or for the first time in a long time, and you're singing these lyrics, it's kind of like you're singing them, but it's like, there is, I think, some power there to when you're singing things that maybe you don't understand yet, or you've not experienced yet, or maybe you don't even fully believe yet. But it's like I think there is power in just speaking them and letting your flesh die and kind of like catching up. Like sometimes I'll say my heart or my spirit needs to just catch up to what I know. Like sometimes they feel a little off kilter. One might be in a different spot than the other. But I think that's why, worship and song like this, especially just reading the Word of God, is just so important. I mean, it's such a great tool for reposturing when it's needed. And so with that being said, for today, we just kind of wanted to I don't know, have an encouraging episode because we've had a very discouraging week. And I don't even mean discouraging week as in, oh, it was just really tough and a lot of hard conversations and whatever. Like, these are the kind of weeks in ministry when, you've got to walk your team through grief. You've got to walk yourself through grief and questions and all that, on a larger scale of ministry that you just don't ever think you're going to have to deal with, or it's not even on your radar, and then all of a sudden you get one phone call and it just changes everything, and it just shifts so much, and it's especially when you have the eyes to see that it is only the enemy, and that it is evil, just the attack that we're under, and not only we, but like, just, I don't want to just speak for like the church ministry. I think it's the capital C church. It was just when the enemy being the enemy in the worst way you could even imagine, and then you're left with the repercussions of the rubble of the blow, and the damage that it left, and the confusion that it can cause. And what do? You inquire of the Lord. So you're like, God, how do we lead through this? What do you have to say about this? Can you show me something about this that I'm not seeing, or that I don't realize yet? Can you give me wisdom here? Can you, just speak into this? And so we've just had a week full of really evil blows, and a week also, though, of constant reminders of who God is, and the invitation to believe that and to follow suit in that, or to stay in our flesh, stuck and trapped in and bound by, schemes of the enemy instead. And so I don't know. I just feel like, I guess I'll share like my initial thought, or like what happened. I was just personally carrying so many random things that are really heavy for my family, and like my kids, and just different things going on in the situation. And for those of you who don't know, we have 3 foster children, and we have almost had them for 4 years, and they are still in the foster care system. Again, it's just a yucky situation, and a lot of evil, and a lot of invitation to be discouraged by that. And when you feel like there's nothing you can do, like for your kids, and especially when they're like, kind of the ones stuck in like the injustice of the system, like it's just really, really disheartening. And so that's kind of the spot personally with our family we've been in. And it's just kind of started to weigh on me and on them. And, Hayden's just unbothered. He's like, it's going to be good, but like everyone else is like, oh my gosh, it's just become a lot. And so then we have that, and just 100 other things. And then we had a really, really rough day with, just with our team, and a huge loss and situation there, and navigating all of that. It was just been a really, 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 really dark week. And I was praying, and again, just asking God these questions, and seeking his face, and what do I even do, and where do we even go? And like, I just hate this feeling, and all these things. And as clear as day, he spoke to me, and he said, you either believe I go before you, or you don't. And it kind of makes me emotional, because it was just him. And sometimes, what I love about God is he's gentle when we need him to be gentle. And when we think we need him to be gentle, and he's not, and that's actually what we needed more. I'm just so grateful for the way that he loves us, and the way that he truly does father his children. And I needed a firm word from him, and not in a bad way, but it was challenging, and it was straightforward, and it wasn't mean, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. It was, Brooke, you either believe that I go before you, or you don't. And so then I'm like, that's a very easy decision, God. Like, my circumstances might make me feel like you might not, but I know that you do. And so that's the decision. And so then you just let, your flesh die to, again, just the invitation from the enemy to operate in intimidation and fear and of worry and of doubt and of all this stuff. And then you again, reposture yourself, you refocus on who God is and his character and what he does and what he says in his word. And if you believe it to be true, then it's that simple. You either believe he goes before you or you don't. And I do. So that's the truth I stand on. And so then having in countless situations just in this week alone, that coming back to mind, it has just given me a boldness and a confidence and just this new strength that I just really haven't had in a long time for some of these situations that I'm dealing with, and in ministry and my personal home life and all of that, like with our children and just different things. Like, and I just needed it. I needed a firm, honest word from the Lord. And I also always know it's him because it's just short and sweet and he's just straight to the point. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking about today, is just, I don't know, the importance of taking that moment and recognizing, like, okay, I am not, like, what is the fruit here? Like, what do I need to just pause and shed for a second? What do I need to refocus on? What do I need to regrasp? And so I don't know. We just wanted to do that, and we feeling like in this week that we've had, like that's just what we've been tasked to do in order to keep going on the front lines. And we've been tasked to, recall and recount the ways of his faithfulness and his goodness and his mercy and his character. And so, yeah, that's what we were doing today.
Yeah, I think the first thing that came to mind as you were talking is the importance of, in order to recall and recount, you've got to have, you have to know, like there has to be a knowing there. There has to be things to recall and to recount. And so I was just, the importance of really just that relationship equity that you're building every day, in your quiet time, in your prayer time, in your personal worship time, all of these things that, when things are going good and there's no hiccups or bumps in the road, and, it's those days that are easy to, I don't even know that I even really need to do this, or, like what, but it's just the average days of just doing that are what add up for when you have the bad ones come, because then it's like, oh, I know, I can recall, I can recount, I know who God is, because of all the time I've spent with him, and if you haven't done that, it's so much harder, and it's so much easier to let the enemy come in and speak the lies and listen to the lies and be discouraged and question and doubt, because of, there isn't that same relationship there,
Yeah.
And I think that has been really, I've had a ton of conversations this week, more conversations probably in a week than I've had in a long time. And, a lot of these conversations involve people recalling and recounting memories that they can draw from, and things that they can draw from, and that's important. That's special to have. And then there's also so many experiences that have popped up in these conversations where you can tell that, like, well, God has walked me through this before, and now I can lean on that. Because I've seen him carry me through this in another situation, or I've seen him come through in another situation. And so although it's hard to see the how right now, I know because of my past experience with him that he will. And I've just got to trust and focus on those, and at the end of the day he will. So I think that just as you were talking, that was in mind. I was just replaying a lot of things, like this, the importance of, gosh, you've got to have something to recall and recount back to.
Yeah.
Or it just may, that foundation, if that foundation is there, it makes it so much easier as you're trying to build back the things that feel maybe have gotten torn down or knocked down.
Yeah, and I think about it in two ways. I think about the people who don't have that, who are new to their walk with the Lord, and it's fresh, it's just starting, or maybe it's a prodigal situation, like you used to be a Christian and then you're just like went a little wayward and now you're kind of working your way back, and maybe there are people who are still trying to decide, like, do I even buy into this whole God thing? And so what would you say, like, if there was somebody listening right now who was like, wow, that's really great for you, but I'm just not there yet? Like, how would you encourage them, of like how to even start, where to begin? And I feel like it's a very simple answer, but I also feel like it's so important. And I think it's not only just a word for like new Christians, but those who have walked with the Lord for a long time. Like, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think, so the reality is, although you may not have known or even have called yourself a Christian at that time, like, God has been with you from day one. And he is active in your life from day one. It's just you've probably given credit or not had the eyes to see in different ways. I can think back to, gosh, before I would, people would have looked at my life and said, that's not an active, walking Christian, Jesus follower right there. But I can now look back and I know so many different things and can look back and see so many different ways that, okay, I had no idea, or I didn't think, or I didn't have the eyes to see, but that was God working in my life. And so although you may not necessarily have those moments, memories, from the moment you've considered yourself a Christian forward, but I can promise that God has been working in your life well before you said yes, And so I think you can take it some time, and now that you know what to look for, because you're learning about what is the character of God, what are the traits of God, how does God, work, what does he do, what does he care about? And you now, as you learn those things, there are going to be times, even before you were a Christian, that are going to pop in your mind, and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I had no idea why that worked out the way that it did, or why I was
like,
protected.
Wow, you protected me. Like, I had no idea.
I had no idea why that should have been so much worse. Like, why was that? And now you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, because I know God's good. I know he's faithful. I know he cares about his kids. Even though at that time I was, as you mentioned, a prodigal, I had ran away. We see in that story, the father's still standing there, like nothing had changed, and the father was still working for the son's good the whole time he was gone. And so I would say that would be one thing of just, take some time to, even, it doesn't have to be from the moment you were baptized or the moment you accepted Jesus forward. He's been working in your life the whole time. So take some time to think back. Now that you know the character of God, or you're learning the character of God, go back and think about all the times and situations that are there. And then now you just simply get to give him credit for the things that you probably had no idea what to give credit to. Now you can start to say, oh, wait, that matches the character of God, or that matches, I can see that because I know what God's will for my life is now, I can see that was God's will working then. I just had no idea that is what he was doing at that time. Yeah. And so I think that would be, like, I think those things are there. We just have to give him credit for them and take the time to think back.
Yeah. I mean, and even like if you're just starting out, or, fresh in your journey or whatever, like, truly, I can't reiterate enough. Like, if you don't have a Bible, you need a Bible, and reading the Bible, especially if you start in the Gospels, and, just that's always a great spot, I think, to start, because you get such a view on Jesus and his ministry and his heart and what he was all about, especially the book of John. And I feel like that's a good spot to, like, open up your Bible and learn about him and just read about him and sit in it and ask ask the Lord to reveal things about himself and his nature to you, and begin building that relationship with Jesus. Begin that rapport, and learning about his character, because you might, again, not know anything about him yet. And you're like, oh, people say he's good. People say he's powerful, and that's about all I've got. And so it's like, that's okay. That's great. So dive into the word and get to know him more. And when you get to know him from, this sword that we have, the truth, and it just, I feel like that's the best place to start and to stay rooted in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I hope that's helpful. But
yeah,
that
if you
would be my thought.
if you don't have a Bible and you're watching this, listening to this, then message in if you want one. We will make sure that you get one.
For sure.
If you don't have one, you can send us an email or go to the website and you can leave a comment there, whatever. But just send us your address or however we need. We will make sure that you get a Bible for sure. So
that's
that,
so
by the
good.
way, because it's just. You got to have it.
Yeah, you do.
It's required reading for the.
You do. I love like how handy it is to have the Bible on your phone. But I love a physical copy of the Bible. It's so good. So yeah, we would love to get you one if you need one. I was. So this past weekend, John, we had our 1 year celebration of our Carbondale campus, and we're recording this before John actually does his sermon, but I think in his sermon he's going to be in Joshua. And is that right?
I think so.
This is live time. And if not, just whatever. It's still relevant. I think he's talking about Joshua and in the series with just about rocks and the importance of them and how they were used in the Bible and just really great teaching points from rocks. And one of the things in the book of Joshua was in the book of Joshua, and I think it's in chapter 4, really, when it was talking about like the monument that they built of stone. So each of the 12 tribes, I think, had this stone, and they there was a miracle at the Jordan River that they experienced and witnessed, and they then took a stone and that represented each of the 12 tribes. And the point of that monument or memorial or whatever it's called, was literally just a physical visual representation that was to remind them and their children and their children's children and their children's children's children and generations to come about what God did. And I think that is another really great tool that we can use to do just that. So, short-term Christians, long-term Christians, right? If we're in this walk for the long haul, we think about it as just our lives. And sometimes we think, our lives and how it impacts our children. Very rarely do we think about, our grandkids one day. But then it's like, and I'm definitely not thinking about my grandkids. If the Lord doesn't come back by then, we're just not a generation who thinks about generations. And so, the generations to come. And so I think that's really powerful in this teaching, like just the reminder of what are we doing right now to set the precedent, to set the example, to leave something behind, again, this like some kind of again, physical, visual representation to remind us every time we see it about what God did. And for each generation to know the story behind what it is that they're looking at, again, is huge. And so I thought that was even cool of like a tool to, and just this idea of, how do we, in situations, instead of when we just need to be focused on who God is and his character and his nature, what's a practical thing that we can do to be, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like proactive towards, knowing how to do that when the attacks come. And so that verse or that story in Joshua, I just thought was like really, really great. I don't even know what that could look like for us. Brooke's
gonna be out in her yard stacking rocks.
Brooke would stack rocks. Well, but you just think I think about the miracle of my children, and every story for every single one of them is miraculous. And when you're in the thick of parenting, I mean, this morning I woke up and had a disastrous morning with my 7-year-olds. Like, it was just like, oh my gosh, you forget in the moment, when things get really hard, of like the miracle that is his life, the miracle that is his story, the growth that he has shown in the 4 years he's lived with us, And so it's like, what can I do? Like, I'm thinking as parent and just mothering a really hard season with one of my boys. It's like, what can I do as a mom, to like have that somehow prevalent on my mind, a way to something to every time I see it, it is something that triggers my thoughts to look at all that God has done in him and for him and through him. And it's so funny because this afternoon there was a family. She was Matt's teacher. And when he was in pre-K, and that was when we first got him. So he was 4 years old. And like every day he was coming home with red faces because it was just a really hard season for him, and all the abuse and trauma he was trying to heal from. And his teacher, we had her for 2 years in both, rounds of pre-K, and she was phenomenal. But what was really cool and my favorite part about it is her and her husband got their foster care license because of how much she loved Matt and how much just what the Lord did in her heart, watching Matt's story as a 4 and 5-year-old, inspired this lady and her family to commit to such a crazy journey and a very costly and then today she posts on Facebook that 2 of her foster daughters are adopted today. And so, you just think back, like it's stuff like that. I'm like, I don't ever want to forget it. Like I always want to be reminded, and it is not natural for us to keep that in the forefront of our mind. So it's like, what can we do proactively and intentionally, to somehow, when things get really hard or the enemy really comes at you, what can you cling to? What can you grab? What can you look at? What can you go back and read? What can you see that, again, you take every thought captive? And so, just what is, like, I feel like that's just another tool that we can like keep in our tool belt.
Well,
and not this spiritual warfare stuff. Like, that's really helpful.
Well, I think there's something to like the importance of other relationships and community in that as well, because like as you were just talking about Matt. Now, granted, I've always had a soft spot for Matt, but Matt and I also like. I mean, I can remember the day after you guys got him. I mean, I remember, the long hair and Hayden bringing him up to the church, and like hanging out with him all afternoon. And so it's like, I know, because like, you talk about your rough morning, with him this morning, but then it's like, yes, I know.
But do you remember how rough they used to be?
But then it's like, I think sometimes because, especially in parenting, whatever, like you're every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's all day, every day. You don't have the kind of the pulled back view because it is all you know and see because you're in it every day. Constantly. Whereas it's like, yes, I know that there is loads of tough and difficultness there, but it's like, because I have a different view and perspective, like in those hard times I can say, but gosh, like I know it's really hard right now, but think back to what it was, or like think how far all of them, but especially him, like how far the change and just the difference. And so I think that that's something too in this, is it's so important to be surrounded by a community of people that, one, you let in enough to know what is going on, but two, that walk with you every day enough to, in those seasons where everything does get overwhelming and it is hard to see past what's just right in front of you, they can kind of have that more pulled back view and say, I know that what you've got right in front of you is for sure really tough and really difficult, but also like think back, like because you can just see the huge, and then it's kind of like you're right. Like there is, I can look back and see how far we've come. I can see there's a long way to go, but I can see how far we've come. And then that just almost encourages, can give you encouragement of like that reminder of, although we have such a long way to go, look at how far we've already come. And if he's willing to bring us this far, then why wouldn't he take us the rest of the way? And so I think that's where community can step in, those relationships can step in, and people can, help you do the recalling, help you do the recounting, because it can get tough to see past your here and now. And that's not any, that's not that's not wrong, because it's your everyday, it's what's right in front of you. And so that's where I think, community and relationship matters.
Yeah. Well, and like you truly do that for us all the time. And even like, just, it was not that long ago. It was Christmas, and we might have talked about it in here. I don't even remember. But, again, having a really difficult time with him and just a lot going on there and all the things. And I came to work feeling so frustrated and so discouraged. And I was just like, it was heavy. And Eric took a minute just to be like, do you remember his preschool graduation? And I was like, oh my gosh. And so Matt, it was very, very hard. I can't even get into it. But for his preschool graduation, they graduate every year from preschool. Just, I don't know.
It is.
That's just the thing.
Bo's graduated 3 years.
So Matt's first preschool graduation, basically they sing these little songs, and he wasn't having it. And he sat in the lap of his teacher the whole time. And he had his head down. He covered his ears like this. Like he was like, and so Hayden and I, and Matt wanted you to be there. We had grandparents there. I don't know, did John come? I don't know. There's a bunch of people, like our community just came to show up for him, and that's what they showed up and saw, is him sit on this teacher's lap with his head down, holding his ears like this. And we're like, wow, well, you were having a great time. So we leave, and I think it doesn't matter. So then fast forward, and now he's in second grade. We go to his Christmas program this year, and we had zero idea. But they announced that Matthew has a solo during one of his Christmas songs. And we're like, is there another Matthew in second grade? Like, what in the world? And then lo and behold, like during this song, like our little Matthew's front and center, and he walks up to the mic and he sings a couple times and like then goes back. And we were like, what in the world? Like we didn't even know about it. And you guys were there. And so it's like, the reminders of like, look at how far we've come to. We're sitting in our teacher's lab, not wanting to participate. And a few years go by, and we're singing solos at our Christmas program and not even telling our parents about it. Like, it's no big deal.
What did he say? It was like, he was supposed to say like hula hoop.
Hoopa
said like
hoop or something.
Hoop. Yeah, it was so good.
It was so funny.
Yeah,
but anyways.
well, what was funny too is after that, I remember, because he was really, at his preschool one, I remember he was pumped about Fazoli's.
Yes.
That was like, he was jacked up to go to Fazoli's. And it ends, he walks up, and everybody I think is expecting like, him to be.
He's going to explode.
He's going to
like
explode.
He's over
this.
This
This did not
something.
go right. And then, he was like, I had a great time. Let's go to Fazoli's,
we were like, okay.
All right. Good for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Good for you.
But like, that's just a little real life story, of like, what is that for you and your family or your friends or your life or your testimony or your journey or someone that you're walking with? Like, just having the opportunities to just like look back and when the emotions aren't so high or big or in your face, like, and then taking a minute to pause. And again, like Eric's saying, having the real life community and practicing that and like calling that out in each other and encouraging each other with that. And so I think it makes me finally, the last thought with all that is it makes me kind of think of ministry too, of like, if we have a lot of people who watch this who are involved in ministry in a lot of capacities, whether, you're on staff at a church or you are a super involved, plugged in volunteer or a faithful attending congregant member somewhere, like you guys get it. And so I think that's why it's important to kind of talk about this too, because, we, our church that we've been here for, a ministry for 100 years plus over. And last year we launched our first ever additional campus. And so, we went to a city called Carbondale, Illinois, and it was an hour south of where we are. And it was just wild because in ministry, all the happenings behind the scenes, and then people who like attend, like you just get, a totally different perspective on a situation. Now we have seen like the ups and the downs and the miracles of like the behind the scenes stuff that only God could do, and even like the building of like the actual like campus to like as ministry gets going and we get a rhythm, and our Carbondale team has figured out their new normal, and like you're just trucking along, and then you I don't know, but like it's still hard because then you're dealing with people and their heavy situations, and you're launching another campus. And so on the back end, the work side of it is a huge shift for your team, and navigating what works best and what works, for everyone, and like what are people's roles and how does the system work, and like developing things that you didn't have before that now you think you might need. And so, I mean, it's just a lot of work, and it's so good. It's so good to have moments where we can, again, focus then on the things that the enemy would want us to be distracted from, I think, the busyness and the cost that we pay in ministry on the back end, being like the hands and feet of like these projects and events and whatever. But then you're like, okay, hold on a minute though. Like, it's not about the work. Like, God, what are you doing? And then you sit there and you recall and recount the stories and the testimonies of these people, who found this church, who'd been praying for a church, who, got plugged in, who've built relationships, these people who are being baptized, the stories we hear about real life change and truly like freedom for people from like demonic oppression, and you just think, oh my goodness. And then, the next thing like, you go from one service to two services, and then you're at 300 people every weekend, and you're growing, and it's just and God, you just see God's hand and you see the fruit of it. And then this year we're celebrating like this past weekend, we were celebrating the 1 year anniversary of when we launched Carbondale campus. And so it's like the blur as of someone in ministry, it has been, and I can't even imagine our Carbondale team, like the blur that it has been, and the transition and that has been, and the cost it's been of just pastoring and doing all the things. Oh my gosh, I just can't even imagine. It's just crazy. But then it's like, but then when you stop and you refocus, like we've gotten the intentional time to do this weekend, about what he has done and about the fruit of what has happened. And of course, it's been great. It's been good. But it's like, wow, Lord, like, you really did all of this. Like it's just overwhelming to just think back from like initial conversations that our elders were having to now, the fruit of that fasting and that prayer, like the season of it, waiting, inquiring of the Lord and waiting to hear from him. And then it's like every decision that came after that, and not knowing what's next, how's this going to work out. And then a year later, here we are, and we get to look back, and then we have our rocks, to remind us of, wow, like the miracle that is that campus and that community there, and all that the Lord has done. So I don't know, I just think that's really cool too, and a good example for when you're in ministry, and just to take a minute to pause from like the wild like demands, of it, from behind the scenes, to just be like, oh my gosh, but like none of this would have happened without you, and look what's happening because of you. So
I want to close with, I'm going to read the verse that's kind of definitely been my theme verse for the year so far. And as the year goes on, I'm starting to probably more and more understand as to why. But I think it fits a good reminder of just what we're walking. But it's Psalm 1, verse 3.
So good. It
said, he will be standing firm like a flourishing tree planted by God's design, deeply rooted by the brooks of bliss, bearing fruit in every season of life, the good ones and the bad ones. I added that in there, but that's what that's what every season means, bearing fruit in every season of life.
Yeah.
He is never dry, never fainting, ever blessed, and ever prosperous. And I think that is ultimately, no matter what, no matter what we're dealing with, no matter what we're going through, if we are deeply rooted and firmly planted, then by His design and in His foundation, in every season of life, we will flourish because that's just who He is. And so hopefully that's an encouraging word for you today. If you're somebody that is been struggling, or maybe you're not, and you might be coming up, these are hopefully just a really practical conversation for you to look back on and to help remind you of how you can recall and recount and look back at what God has done, the faithfulness that He showed, whether you knew His miracles, whether you knew it was Him at the time or not. It's something that we can draw back on, and it can carry us forward in those times when what's in front of us just gets super heavy and super dark. And so hopefully that will encourage you this week. So we appreciate you listening as always, or watching again. If you're joining us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button, and we just would appreciate that. That helps the podcast get seen and heard by more people, and again, it lets you know every time we release new content. If you have any questions on one, if you're like, hey, I would really love to get a different Bible, or maybe you've been reading the Bible on your phone. One, if you need help getting that, please be sure you can email Eric at thepraisepodcast.com or Brooke at thepraisepodcast.com, or you can go to thepraisepodcast.com, and you're going to see right there on the homepage a thing that says join the conversation. You can just put your information in there and just say like, hey, I need a Bible. And that will come to us, and we will help you get that. But if you're like, I don't really want you to send me one, but I would maybe be interested in getting a new one or a different study Bible or something like that, on our website, thepraisepodcast.com, under our resources, we've got our favorite Bibles that we like to use to study with. And so if you maybe just have a regular Bible, or you've been using the Bible on your phone and you want more of a study Bible type thing to use for your study time, head over there and you can just see there's, tons out there. These are just the ones that we have found that we really like, fit for how we like to study well and the way we like to do it. And then there's also other things like Bible studies. So maybe if you're trying to take your quiet time, or you're just looking for something to spur on some freshness in that time, we've got resources there as well, Bible studies, different books that you can use to read to help just kind of guide you through, because I know it can be, you've got this Bible sitting in front of you and it can be very intimidating and overwhelming as to where to start. As Brooke mentioned, the book of John is always a great place to start, but there's also resources there that can help you if you're looking for ways to just get more in depth with your Bible study time. That would be a good place to check out, and then you can kind of go from there. But that's thepraisepodcast.com. And of course, you want to be there when stuff starts happening again on Instagram. You're going to want to be there. And so you can follow us at The Praise Podcast on Instagram. But yeah, head over there, and hopefully some fun will await you very soon there as well. So anything else we need to tell these fine folks that have hung out for about an hour of their time? So we appreciate you listening. These conversations, it's not something we say out of like pride, or that it's even probably the best way to go about doing this, but like it really is always just us sitting down and really what's on our mind. And so, this is like, I think we talked for maybe about 3 minutes before we hit record, just on where we were going. And again, that's not a like, look at us, what we're doing, but we really want you guys to feel like you are a part of just a genuine conversation that we are having. And so when we say that we want you to join the conversation, we really mean it. Because,
it's literally the best part.
Yes.
Like when someone will email in, or, they'll shoot you a message, or they'll stop you at, in town, or they'll bring it up at church, like it is. Sometimes I'm like, wait, hold on, what did we talk about? I'm like, wait, what did I say? Or, because again, we just have these conversations, but it is the best part. And my favorite part is, I don't know, we truly just depend on the Lord to like, let it bring the fruit to your life and encouragement and just maybe confirmation, or maybe just like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. Like, and in a way to just these divine appointments and simple little YouTube videos and podcast episodes that the Lord can use to really just guide his people and shepherd us and encourage us in our walk with him and with each other. And so, yeah, just hearing from you guys is truly the best part. And the number one reason why we do this. So please, just if you don't ever feel like, oh, they don't really want to hear about that or whatever, it's like, yeah, we literally do. We want to hear from every single one of you. Yeah. And whether it be something short and sweet, or if it's, a few, scrolls down, it doesn't matter. We just love to hear your heart and how the Lord used the conversation to spur thoughts that you have, or, to encourage you forward in your walk with him. So
I'm getting more and more used to voice text.
Yeah, you are. That's really good. I love voice text.
People are forcing me into really getting used to the voice text. So however you want to do it, you just, but please, we really do mean, we love hearing from you. And this really is just a genuine conversation that we're having. You're seeing live play out what's on our mind as we work through different things that we're thinking about and working through. And so as that happens, again, in conversation, there's probably stuff that pops up in your mind as well. We would love to hear those thoughts. So you can do that through the website and all the different ways we've mentioned. So please do that. I think that's it. We appreciate you all. We love you all. As we always say, let's be people every day in every way that bring the praise. We'll see you next time.